Half of all Americans over the age of 50 have less than $50,000 saved for retirement, not for next year, not for the next decade, for the rest of their lives. I am going to say that again because the first time I read it, I had to read it twice. Half, 50,000, for the rest of their lives. In the next 15 minutes, I am going to walk you through the 7 numbers that tell the real story of where the average American family stands in 2026, not the polished version on the evening news, not the encouraging version your advisor gives you when he is about to sell you something. The real numbers, pulled from the same federal surveys, just without the spin. Some of them will sound impossible. On each one, I will slow down and tell you what it actually means at a kitchen table, looking at the same bills you and I look at every month. Before we start, I want to tell you the one thing I learned from staring at these numbers for the last 3 weeks. The first 6 are terrifying. The 7th is the one that actually decides whether you sleep well at night, and almost nobody talks about it. Stay with me to the end. I will get there. Let us start with number 1. 63% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense without going into debt. 63%. 6 out of every 10 people you walk past at the grocery store, the neighbor waving at you from her front porch, the guy 2 pews behind you at church, your grandkid's teacher, your mailman, $1,000. That is a busted refrigerator. That is a transmission on a 15-year-old car. That is the dental crown your insurance suddenly decided is cosmetic. Bankrate has been publishing this number every year for over a decade. It moves a point or two with the economy, but in any year I can find it has never dropped below 55%. Not in the strong years, not in the recovery years, not in the year the stock market doubled. Most of the news stops here. They give you the numbers, shake their heads on camera, and move on. Here is what they leave out. A few years ago, I had a friend named Glenn, good guy, worked at the same insurance office for 31 years, made about $90,000 a year toward the end, lived in a paid-off house. By any measure my father would have used in 1975, Glenn was wealthy. Glenn's wife called him one Tuesday afternoon. The well pump had failed. The estimate was $1,100. Glenn put it on a credit card at 26% interest. He told me about it sitting on his porch that weekend, not in the way you tell a story, but in the way you confess something. He said, "I don't understand how I got here." That is the number behind the number. It is not just 63% of broke people. It is 63% of people who on paper are doing everything right. Owning the house, paying the mortgage, putting kids through college, showing up at the same job for 40 years. What the emergency fund stat actually measures is cash flow, not income. And in America in 2026, the system is built so that even people doing fine on income end up living check to check on cash. Hold on to that, because the next number explains why Number 2, the median retirement savings for an American household headed by someone between 55 and 64 years old is roughly $144,000. The word median is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, so let me slow down on it. When the headlines tell you the average American has $250,000 in retirement savings, they are using the mean. The mean is what you get when you take every retirement account in the country, add it all together, and divide by the number of households. That number is inflated by the small percentage of households that have several $1,000,000 stashed away. The median is different. The median is what the person standing in the exact middle of the line actually has. If you lined up every American household between 55 and 64 by retirement savings, the household standing in the middle of that line has about $144,000. That is the household most likely to be you and me. Let me run that number through the same calculator I had to use 3 years ago. If you retire at 65 with $144,000 and you live to 85, which is the average life expectancy at that age, in good health, you have to make that money last 20 years. 144,000 divided by 20 comes out to about $7,200 a year, $600 a month. $20 a day. That is on top of Social Security, which we will get to in a minute. But $20 a day from the asset you spent your entire working life building is a number that nobody wants to look at, honestly. When I first did this math on a yellow legal pad in my recliner, I did not get up for about 20 minutes. Here is the part the headlines really do not tell you. That figure includes everybody still working at that age. It includes people who still have a pension, which is vanishingly rare for anyone retiring today. And it includes people about to inherit money from their parents. For households without a pension and without an expected inheritance, the median is closer to $90,000. Roll that around for a second. There is one more number under this that I find more sobering than either, and that is number 3. About 28% of Americans over the age of 60 have no retirement savings at all. Not low, not behind. $0. 1 in 4 people in your age bracket at the age when you are supposed to be enjoying the reward of 40 years of work has nothing put aside besides whatever check the government decides to send. When I first read that number, my mind started looking for the loophole. There has to be something the survey is not catching. People owning their houses outright, people with pensions, people with adult children helping out. So I went and looked. The number adjusts a little, but not as much as you would hope. Even with home equity and other assets, more than 1 in 5 Americans over 60 has effectively nothing to retire on outside of Social Security. I want to slow down on this one because this is the number where the temptation is strongest to read it once, feel sad, and click away. If you are still here, I want you to do one thing for me. Think of 4 people in your life over the age of 60. Your brother, your old college roommate, the couple you have dinner with once a month, The neighbor who waves on Saturdays. By the numbers, one of them is in this group. One of them is in a different conversation than you think when you talk about Florida or RVs or the cruise you are saving up for. One of them is doing math in their head about which prescription to fill this month and which one to wait on. This is not a stranger statistic. This is a kitchen table statistic. I am not telling you this to make you feel guilty about the friends in your life. I am telling you this because the next number explains why 1 in 4 is so close to home, and it is also the number about to get worse very fast in a way the news has not adequately prepared anybody for. Number 4, the average Social Security retirement benefit in 2026 is roughly $1,900 a month. That is $22,800 a year. For about 40% of Americans over 65, that check is more than 90% of their income. Not part of it, not a supplement to it. Almost all of it, $22,800 a year. Rent in most of the country runs $14,000 to $20,000 a year by itself. Healthcare, even with Medicare, runs another $4,000 to $6,000 a year out of pocket once you count Medigap, Part D, and deductibles. Groceries for 2 people in 2026 run $6,000 to $8,000 a year. If you are careful, do that math out loud. There is not a lot of slack in the rope, but that is the part most people know. Here is the part most people do not know. Social Security, as it is currently funded, is on track to pay only about 77% of promised benefits starting around 2033. That is not a political point. That is the official estimate from the Social Security Administration's own trustees. A number on a page in a public report. Let us be honest with each other. Congress is almost certainly going to do something before that hits. They always do. They will raise the payroll tax cap or shift the retirement age or trim cost of living adjustments. The benefit will not drop to 77% overnight. But here is the part that should make you sit up. Whatever they do will come out of somewhere. Most of the fixes I have read involve some combination of higher payroll taxes for younger workers, a higher retirement age for people currently in their 50s, and slower cost of living adjustments for current retirees. The math has to balance somehow. If you are over 50 and counting on Social Security to be the floor under your old age, plan for that floor to be a little lower than the brochure says, starting sometime in the next 10 years. That brings us to the number nobody likes to talk about. Number 5, Americans aged 65 and older are carrying more debt than they have at any point in recorded history. The total household debt for Americans over 65 is now north of $4 trillion. When my father retired in 1986, he had no mortgage. He had no credit card balance. The car was paid off. The only check he wrote, outside of utilities and groceries, was the small homeowner's insurance bill once a year. That was the normal model. By 2023, the typical American household entering retirement was carrying about $80,000 in non-mortgage debt, plus a mortgage on the house they thought they would have paid off by 65. about 41% of Americans aged 65 to 74 still have a mortgage. In 1989, that number was 19%. It has more than doubled in one generation. Credit card debt for people over 60 has roughly tripled over the same period, even after you adjust for inflation. And here is the part the financial press tiptoes around. About 6% of all student loan debt in this country is held by people over 60. Most of it co-signed for kids or grandkids, some of it taken on in their 50s when the career they had built fell out from under them. I want to tell you my own example because I think I owe you that. When I turned 50, I had a mortgage I thought would be gone by 60. A home equity line we took out to put a new roof on. About $12,000 on a credit card from a couple of vacations that felt important at the time. And one car payment, if you had asked me that year whether I had a debt problem, I would have said no. I was making the payments. The mortgage was at a low rate. The credit card balance was annoying but manageable. That is the trick. Debt does not feel like a problem when you can make the minimums. It feels like a problem the first time you cannot. And in retirement, on a fixed income, with health expenses that grow every year and Social Security that grows slower than the price of groceries, the first time you cannot make the minimums is closer than most of us think. Hold on to that, because the next number explains why we got here as a country. And it is not the reason you have been told. Number 6, the personal savings rate in the United States has dropped to roughly 3 to 5%. That number sounds abstract on its own, so let me put it next to its older cousin. In 1975, the average American household saved about 13% of their take-home pay. In 1985, about 10. In 1995, about 6. Now in 2026, it sits closer to 4. We are saving less than a third of what our parents saved. The easy explanation, the one the news likes, is that people are not disciplined anymore. We buy too much takeout. We have too many subscriptions. We treat ourselves too often. There is some truth to that. I am not going to sit here and tell you nobody overspends, but that is not the main story. Here is the main story. In 1975, a typical full-time job covered a typical family's housing, health insurance, transportation, and groceries, with about 13% left over to save. By 2026, that same job, adjusted for inflation, covers maybe 85% of those same expenses on a good month. We did not get worse at saving. The math got tighter. The cost of college has gone up about 1,300% since 1975. Healthcare has gone up about 800%. Housing in most metropolitan areas has gone up about 700%. Wages, adjusted for inflation, have gone up about 35%. I will not make this political. I will tell you what I see when those 4 numbers are stacked next to each other. The people who say, just save more, do not understand the math anymore, which does not mean we are off the hook. Our saving strategy cannot be the one our parents used. We cannot just save 13% off the top and trust the system to do the rest. The system has changed, and any plan we build for the next 20 or 30 years has to acknowledge that. That is why, when we get to number 7, I am not going to tell you to save 20% of your income, or 15, or even 10. Number 7 is something else. And number 7 is what changed everything for me. Number 7. This is the one I told you to wait for. The one number that, if you write it on an index card and stick it on the refrigerator tomorrow morning, will do more for your peace of mind than the other 6 combined. Your monthly burn rate, the total amount of money it takes for you and the people you love to live, the life you actually want to live for 1 month. Not the life the magazines tell you to want. Not the life your neighbor is performing for you on social media. The life you actually want when you are honest with yourself, eating dinner at the table you eat at every night. The reason this number matters more than every other number on this list is that this is the number you control. You cannot control the Social Security Trust Fund. You cannot control inflation. You cannot control whether your employer offers a pension. You cannot, in any meaningful way over the short run, control how much you make. You can control how much you spend, and every dollar you shave off your monthly burn rate is worth far more than a dollar you save. Here is why, if your monthly burn rate is $6,000, then every $12,000 in savings buys you exactly 2 months of life. To retire securely for 20 years, you would need around $1.5 million in liquid assets on top of Social Security. If you can bring that monthly number down to $4,000, every $12,000 in savings now buys you 3 months of life. The same $1.5 million now stretches to a 30-year retirement. You did not earn any more money. You did not get a better return. You just lowered the burn rate, and your savings, your Social Security, and your pension, if you have one, all suddenly do more work. In the video I made before this one, I walked through 7 money rules I followed for 30 days that brought my own monthly burn rate down by about $900. The link is in the description, but the central idea of that video and of this one is this: the terrifying stats on the evening news are not lies. They are the truth, told without context. The context is that for the average American family in 2026, the savings game is not winnable on the savings side. There is not enough left over after the bills to ever fully catch up by saving alone. The game is winnable on the spending side. You do not need to make more money to stop being scared. You need to know exactly what your number is, and you need to bring it down. I want to end with a thought I have been turning over for a couple of months. These numbers are terrifying not because the numbers themselves are unusually bad. They are terrifying because we are looking at them through the wrong lens. Our parents' generation was told, get a job, work hard, retire comfortably. That was the deal. The system was built to deliver on that deal for most people who held up their end of it. That deal does not exist anymore. The shape of work has changed. The shape of pensions has changed. The shape of college costs has changed. The shape of medical costs has changed. We are living in 2026 in an economy our parents would not recognize, but trying to retire by their playbook. That is the source of the fear, not the numbers. The mismatch between the numbers and the story we were told. So here is what I would like to leave you with. Get a clean piece of paper. Tonight, if you have the energy, this weekend, if tonight is too tired, write down every dollar that left your household last month, every utility, every grocery run, every gas station stop, every prescription, every subscription. Add it up honestly. Then ask yourself one question. If I had to live on that number forever, starting tomorrow, what is the first thing I would change? Whatever your answer is, that is where you start. Not with a new investment, not with a fancy retirement strategy, not with a stock tip. You start by knowing what your number is. The first time I did this exercise, sitting at the same kitchen table I have made every video at, my number was a little higher than I expected and a lot more changeable than I had let myself believe. I would bet yours is too. I am Arthur. This is Common Sense Capital. If you got something out of this video, the kindest thing you can do is share it with one friend who has been quietly worrying about all of this and not talking about it. Most of us are quieter about money than we should be. A conversation your share starts might be the most useful thing that happens in their week. If you have a number you want to share, or a story about the day you first added it up, leave it in the comments. I read everyone. I will see you in the next one. And remember this, the numbers in the news are not your story. Your story is the one you write on that piece of paper tonight.